What's going on, guys? Elite Sports Talk back with more. The NFL season has now already kicked off. We've seen not one but two games, and so far, so good. Both were division games, and so today I wanted to talk about before the Sunday slate kicks off. I got a few things here. I wanted to get my projections out for the total over unders and total win losses for both of the last two divisions that we need to discuss, which is the NFC West and the AFC West. And before we get to that, well, actually, there's a few more things too I wanted to discuss. So I got a few bets of the week. If you like to, you know, indulge. And I also have a couple of just straight up picks that I'm going to pick, and then we'll come back to that next week and see how I made out. And maybe a few other things as well. So, first, what we're going to get to is the opening night, Thursday night. Again, it was the Philadelphia Eagles after coming off that Super Bowl win out against their division rival Dallas Cowboys. And, a couple of things here. I mean, I think we all kind of figured that the Philadelphia Eagles were going to win this one. But I think that Dallas, they actually played a little bit better than we would have thought. And in terms of passing yards, we didn't really see a whole lot of passing from either team. Dak ended up going 21 to 34 for just 188 yards. No touchdowns, but also no interceptions. And Jalen Hurts only had 4 incompletions, 19 of 23 for a buck 52. And, both defenses played very well. And I actually gave a few fantasy picks. I wasn't really sure if I was going to, but I had told people it may be a good idea to start Jake Ferguson. That didn't work out as I would have thought. He did have 5 catches, only for 23 yards though. Javonte Williams went for 54 yards and 2 touchdowns. So the only person that's feeling pretty foolish about not starting him is me. Miles Sanders had 53 yards, and he actually had 49 yards on one rush that ended up, I believe, was a fumble. So that wasn't really too helpful for Dallas. And CeeDee Lamb, he had 13 targets and he only brought down about half of them. So we've seen he had quite the issue with catching some passes, especially the most important one of the game where he dove. And if he would have caught that, they still would have had a very good shot of at least, making some Eagles fans pretty irate, even if they wouldn't have won. George Pickens, his first game in a Cowboy uniform, he only had 3 catches for 30 yards. Then you look at the other side. Like I said, the passing wasn't really at a premium for either of the two teams. Johan Dotson ended up with 3 catches for 59 yards, and he was the number 1 receiving option really in that game in terms of total yardage for Philly. Dallas Goedert, I did end up telling people that maybe they should sit him, and he had 7 catches, but only for 44 yards. So, not too much, but he did get over 10 points. Saquon Barkley added 4 receptions for 24 yards on top of his 60 yards rushing. Now, I would have thought that he would have went closer for about 100 yards. So I guess maybe you could credit that to Kenny Clark. Like Jerry Jones said, he's good at stopping the run. But outside of all that, there wasn't really too much else to really talk about. I mean, Devontae Smith had 3 catches, but only for 16 yards. A.J. Brown was pretty much absent from the game, it seemed like the whole game. He had 1 catch for 8 yards. Then let's look at the defensive side of things here. Malik Hooker was the number 1 tackler for Dallas. Actually, both him and Kenneth Murray Jr. went for 9 tackles, 4 solos apiece. Let's see, there was one sack. Marshawn Nealon had one sack for Dallas. And Kenny Clark, who was, the big part of that trade that seemed Micah Parsons going to Green Bay, Kenny Clark had 5 total tackles. 2 of them were solo. So if that's the type of production we can be expecting all season long, Dallas, I think your defense is not going to be great. And on Philly's side, Zach Bowen was the lead tackler for their team. 9 total tackles, 6 solos, and a tackle for loss. Adoree Jackson, a brand new Philadelphia Eagle, veteran DB, had 7 tackles. Jordan Davis had 7 total tackles, and 3 were solo. And I don't see Carter anywhere on here. I don't think he. Oh, that's right. He didn't get a tackle because he got thrown out of the game right after the opening kickoff. Boy, what a shame. And maybe it wouldn't have been as close of a game as it was. But either way, Dallas, you lost. You're 0-1. Philly, you came out. You showed people, even without Jalen Carter, you could beat the Dallas Cowboys. Congratulations. So now, let's get to the NFC West for the record projections. And we're going to start out, we're going to go alphabetical order. Arizona Cardinals, who, by the way, tomorrow are playing at New Orleans, and they are a 6.5-point favorite. So when you look at the Cardinals, last year they seemed like a much improved team. There was a couple of games that they should have won that they did not end up winning. One of those games, credit to Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks last year because, bravo. They beat Arizona twice to win 10 games just to not make it into the postseason. But, seriously, I love the Cardinals this year. I said last year the same thing. I've been talking about them all offseason. I think they are my sleeper pick in the NFC. I do believe that they will make the postseason. However, I don't believe that they will win their division. Kyler Murray is amazing. He's an incredible player. And he just, at times, makes a few mistakes that wind up being pretty costly. I think that he has taken another offseason. He's grown. And I really think that he's going to have the best season statistically of his career. And they got James Conner back again, who's a very good veteran running back. Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he's going to really go off this year. So if you got him in fantasy football like I did and you paired him as a stack with Kyler, you should be in great shape all season long. They also have a couple of other decent receivers in Michael Wilson and Zay Jones. Greg Dortch, actually, I believe he is hurt again. But when he's healthy, he's a really good receiver as well. They also have 2 other running backs, too, behind James Conner that they can rotate in there, And Trey McBride, who, again, in my opinion, right now, at this point in time, is the number 1 tight end, and not only in fantasy, but just in football in general. I think he is the most talented tight end in the league. I think he has the best hands, and I think this year he will not be allergic any longer to the end zone. So I look for him to have a huge season. And this offensive line, I feel like does not get talked about anywhere near as much as they should. From the starters even to some of these backups, this is a very good O-line. Paris Johnson Jr., Evan Brown, Jonah Williams, who I believe was one of the 2 that were injured last year for the majority of the year. And again, last year, with some of these backup offensive linemen, they went on a streak of like 7 straight weeks where I believe they only let up 2 sacks or less for Kyler. So as long as that O-line holds up, as long as they have a little bit of, because not only do you got to worry about those 3 running backs, but Kyler can take off and run it at any given time as well. I love that versatility factor about, Kyler, and that's another one of the reasons why I love their offense so much. And also on defense, getting Josh Sweat. They also got Calais Campbell back again for his 2nd or 3rd stint. And he's still got a little bit of juice. I get it. He's older now. I get it, guys. But he's still got a little bit of juice in the tank. And that just helps them rotate people in. Um, Walter Nolan, the third, they have him third on the depth chart. And I mean, he's even a really decent player. I believe last year he actually started for them. LJ Kyer. They have Dalvin Tomlinson. They have Akeem Davis Gaither, Mac Wilson Sr., Zaven Collins. They got the corner out of Michigan, Will Johnson, Jalen Thompson, Buda Baker, who I have so many times have mentioned how great of a safety he is. He is the Energizer Bunny for them. He's always all over the field, and you can bet that he will get at least 100, if not 110 tackles this season. And he's also a ball hawk as well. But they kept the whole coaching staff together, which is great news for them. Just another year. This is what going to be the third year with all three of their head coach and both their coordinators. And so, like I said, I don't think that they're going to win the division. I think it's going to come down to pretty much the division record. But I think that Arizona is going to wind up 10-7 this year. Now on to the Los Angeles Rams, who are 3.5 favorites tomorrow at home against the Houston Texans. And again, like I just said with the Cardinals, they retained their entire coaching staff, which is great for them. Matthew Stafford, we're a little bit worried about him, right, with that whole back issue. And hopefully he will be fine. And if not, not that you want to, see a backup quarterback come in, but they do have a pretty decent game manager type quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo, who I believe was in a Super Bowl just a few years ago when he was with the San Francisco 49ers. They also have Stetson Bennett as their third string quarterback, who looked pretty dang good in the preseason. But again, we don't really hope to see them in the season. But if need be, they have not one, but it seems like two formidable options to throw the ball. Then they got Kyron Williams coming out of the backfield. A sneaky, versatile running back that still, for whatever reason, people aren't that high on, but I love Kyron. I think he's a great running back. I think you could even probably put him in the top 10, top 12 discussion right now. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams are the targets for Matthew Stafford. Tutu Atwell is back again. Jordan Whittington, who started having, showing flashes of what he could be in the next couple of years. And they got Tyler Higbee finally is back, which is huge. I don't know how much of a factor he will be this year. They also have a rookie tight end in Terrence Ferguson. Let's see, their offensive line is still pretty good. Then you get to their defense. They got Brandon Fisk. They got Poona Ford. They got Kobe Turner, Brian Young, Jared Verse. We all seen how crazy good he was, and we've seen all those workout videos with their old all-pro defensive tackle. Didn't really look like he could handle the workouts of a true vet. But, man, how great this team would still be if Aaron Donald played with them, too. I mean, you never know, though, right? Because, Aaron Donald's not even that old. So say they get to, the championship weekend, Aaron Donald looks like, from all these videos with Jared Verse, that he stays in elite shape. So, hey, man, maybe they get, far enough into the playoffs. Sean McVay picks the phone up. Hey, Aaron, you want to come back? 2 more games? That would make me excited if I'm a Rams fan. But yeah, even their DBs, really. They have a lot of talent on this team. And remember, just a season ago, they were only one play from beating the team that ended up winning it all, the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Rams, I do also have going 10-7. But like I said, I think it'll probably come down to the division wins. I have the Cardinals going 3-3 in the division. I do have the Rams going 4-2. So in my opinion, I believe the Rams will win the division, and the Cardinals will be a wild card team. So yes, obviously, if you are a San Francisco 49er fan or a Seattle, Seahawk fan, you may want to turn this off right now because you may not be too thrilled about what I project for your team here. So with San Fran, they actually have two brand new offensive and defensive coordinators now. Clay Kubiak is their OC, and Robert Saleh, or as Aaron Rodgers used to call him, Coach Bob, is the defensive coordinator. Kyle Shanahan is still there. So, I don't think you have too much to worry about. I just think that it's going to be like a 2 year fix, we'll say, from the last time that they were in the postseason. Christian McCaffrey for the second consecutive year. We just got an update about him. So anybody that drafted him in fantasy is pretty irate right now and looking to do whatever they can to sell him out on the market. And Brock Purdy, he is better than what people were saying. Mr. Irrelevant has become one of the most relevant quarterbacks in the league. And Juwan Jennings is the receiver. Not really too high on him, but he did have a really good season last year. Ricky Pearsall, who you remember his rookie season, he actually got shot, and then he was out playing football about 2 weeks later, I think it was. He actually, I think, is going to actually have a really decent season. And then I don't know how long we have before Brandon Ayuk makes it back onto the field, maybe by like halfway through the year. Don't really expect a lot from Ayuk even when he comes back. It's kind of difficult to come back from that type of injury. Marcus Valdez-Scantling is another option that they have on the offense who, yeah, he's a formidable guy. He's a decent receiver. I don't really see him doing a lot. They also got Brian Robinson Jr., which was the smartest possible thing they could do. As, assurance, God forbid, Christian McCaffrey can't play every game, which, it's just tough. It's tough to see McCaffrey with all these injuries because of how talented he really is of a player. Not just for fantasy people, but like literally just in general. He's a massive talent, and you hate to not be able to see him play. But anyway, so they also have George Kittle, who is one of the better tight ends in all of football. Kyle Juszczyk, who is huge. He is the probably, I don't know, top 5 fullbacks since I've been around, since I've been alive. He can do everything. He can block. He can actually catch. He can run himself. They have Trent Williams still, who is still kind of known as the number 1 tackle, I would think, in the whole league. They have a couple of other offensive linemen that are pretty good. I don't really know a lot about. I don't want to say they have an elite offensive line because I don't believe that they do. But their O-line should be pretty good this year. Defensively, I don't really know what to make of them this year. I think the best thing for them is that they went out and brought Robert Saleh back. They got a lot of young talent here that, in the next few years, we'll see how great they really turn out to be. They still have Nick Bosa. They still have Fred Warner. Dre Greenlaw is obviously a Denver Bronco now. They also lost Shadavius Ward. Talanoa Hufanga is also a Denver Bronco now. So, again, you don't really know, unless you are a Niners fan, you pay attention to them 100%. It's kind of hard to see how good this team is really going to be. But yeah, so anyway, and if I didn't mention, I think I did, but they are 1.5 point underdogs tomorrow at Seattle on the road. I have them winning tomorrow. However, I only have them winning 6 games this year. Hey, call me crazy. A lot of people out there saying they can make the playoffs, saying they could win 10 games. If McCaffrey stays healthy all season long, I think you got to at least put 2 more to 3 more wins onto what I just said. But I have them going 6-11. It's kind of the unknown, and the West is a tough division. Like I said, if Stafford stays healthy, and if Kyler and the Cardinals play to what I know they can play, what they're capable of, what that talented roster shows, then that's going to be even tougher for a team like San Fran because they got to play both of those teams. That's a total of 4 games right there they could wind up losing. So now let's get on to the last team in the NFC West, which is Seattle Seahawks. And as I just said about San Fran, it's the reverse for that. So Seattle is plus 1.5 dogs tomorrow at home against San Fran. They also have a brand new offensive coordinator. The brother of the Kubiak I just mentioned from San Fran, they have Clint Kubiak for Seattle. And if you don't know anything about Clint, Clint Kubiak, I believe, was the offensive coordinator that was with the Saints last year, who had them score like 120 points within the first 2 weeks of the season, and then they completely fell apart after that. But that's also because Derek Carr ended up getting hurt. So I think he's going to do a lot of good things for them, although he is not, in my opinion, and probably in a lot of people's opinions, not anywhere near as good of an offensive coordinator or, an offensive minded coach, I should say, as Kevin O'Connell. So I don't know that Sam Darnold is going to be able to repeat the same success that he had last year with Minnesota. So I'm not really high on Seattle. But first, let's run down the roster. They got Kenneth Walker III, who's always a little bit banged up. And if need be, they have Zach Charbonnet, who is also a pretty good running back that we've seen last year. Let's see. Jackson Smith-Njigba is their number one receiver. And then obviously they now have Cooper Kupp, who came over from the Rams in the offseason. Troy Horton. Now, Troy Horton, I don't know a lot about. Torrey Horton. I can't talk today. Torrey Horton, he's a rookie, and I feel as though by the end of this season, a lot of us are going to know his name. And I just did a little bit of research on him, not a lot, but I think that maybe, in fantasy, if he's out there on the waiver wire and you have somebody that you think, maybe I didn't really need this person, I would go ahead and pick him up. Torrey Horton, like I said, I believe that he is going to be a name that we all kind of know by the end of the year, especially the fantasy football players. Offensive line, they don't really have a great O-line, but their D-line, their whole defense really for that matter, I like their defense a lot in Seattle, specifically all the starters from Jaron Reed, Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence is still pretty decent. Ernest Jones the fourth. They got Reek Woolen, Kobe Bryant. They got Julian Love, and Devon Witherspoon. Yeah, this is a very, and then even the rookie safety, they're gonna be really good. Jonathan Hankins, they have him as a second nose tackle on the depth chart. So they have depth. I mean, they don't have a ton of depth, but the depth that they have is pretty dang good. So, and I don't think, even last year when you looked at them, their defense was very good last year. And Mike McDaniel, I mean, he is a really great defensive-minded coach. He coached for a couple of different teams over the years, but his last team before he became the head coach was over in Baltimore. And Aiden Durde actually came over from Dallas, and Dallas has actually had a really good defense for quite some time. So putting those two together and being the second year that they're together in this system, yeah, they're going to be good defensively. It's just the offense that kind of makes me a little nervous. They have pieces there, but again, it's kind of the uncertainty with Sam Darnold because he only had 1 year that we could really sit there and go, that was good. Other than that, I mean, look what he did with the Jets. They didn't have a lot of talent around him, though. They also didn't have a great O-line. But if you're a Darnold believer, then you're believing that you're going to hate me right now because I have Seattle going 4-13 on the year. So, yeah. So now we move on to the other game that already was played. This was last night. For the first time ever, an NFL game was broadcasted live on YouTube. And boy, this was a really, really good game. This was a very tough for both teams. This was AFC West, And honestly, it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go, but it did go the way I was hoping it would go. So the Kansas City Chiefs, we all remember the dismantling from the Philadelphia Eagles back in the Super Bowl. Well, yesterday the game looked like it was going to get out of hand kind of early, but the Chiefs did keep it close. They wound up losing 21-27, but when you really look at it in retrospect, I mean, in the beginning of the game, they did lose Xavier Worthy, who is pretty much their, what they're hoping is going to be their best receiver. And we all know Rashee Rice has been suspended, and he will not be back until week 7 because he suspended the first 6 games. But, Mahomes still tried to get this one back, man, and try to get this game either into overtime or just straight up win. And credit to him for that. I mean, he won 24-39, but he did throw for 258. He only threw 1 touchdown. It actually went to his best friend, Travis Kelce. He only had 2 catches for 47 yards, but the main one was the 37-yard reception for a touchdown. And, Mahomes had to take off a few times. He ended up running for 57 yards and got a touchdown that way, diving into the end zone. Pacheco only ended up with 25 rushing yards. Juju Smith-Schuster showed up for them pretty big, 5 receptions for 55 yards. But what was astounding was watching Hollywood Brown turn back the clock. 10 catches for 99 yards. I don't know how it didn't go for 100. It should have been 100 yards. That's what they showed at first. And also Tyquan Thornton, who a younger receiver that they were trying to rely pretty heavily on last night. He dropped a few big passes, but he also extended the game it was either a 3rd and long or a 4th down. Mahomes rocketed one deep down the field, and Thornton actually came up with it, so credit to him. He had 2 receptions for 41 yards. And when you look at the other side of this, really, they were just outplayed by Justin Herbert. And, bravo to Justin Herbert because, if you don't know Justin Herbert, in the first 5 seasons of his career, he has more passing yards than any other quarterback in NFL history. And it was incredible to watch him last night. He threw for 318 yards, and he threw for 3 touchdowns. And he also had his own scampers as well as Mahomes. He had 7 rushes for 32 yards, none bigger than the last run of the game. And, with the swag that came with it, he kind of just slid and just had his hands out. You looked at the facial expression like, yeah, boy, we just won this one. So, I mean, that was great to see out of Herbert. And I mean, this was considered a home game for them, so bravo to them for getting this one done. But they had so many people show up big for them. Omarion Hampton, the rookie running back, after the game and even really going into the half, he probably, got a stern talking to from the coaches because instead of running out the clock before half, he ended up letting Kansas City get the ball back because he ran out of bounds rather than staying in and letting the clock run. So, but you know what? They made up for it. They made up for it in a huge way. Quentin Johnston was their best receiver on the night with 2 touchdowns, 79 yards, and 5 catches. Lad McConkey was all over the place. He went for 74 yards on 6 catches. And then the old savory vet in Keenan Allen, 7 catches for 68 yards and a touchdown. Even Tyler Conklin, really. Tyler Conklin had 50 yards on 2 receptions. So this was just a weird game, though, because, towards the end of the game, it looked like Magic Mahomes was going to do it again. And credit to the defense, really, too, for the Chargers. Just an all-around really good game by this LA Chargers team. And, we'll see. We'll see in the coming weeks whether or not this was just a one time thing because they were in Brazil or if they can repeat this success in LA. And in terms of playing the Chiefs, will they be able to repeat that success in KC later in the year? And then you look at the defense for both teams. Chamari Connor ended up going for 10 tackles, 7 of them of which were solo. Nick Bolton had a good game, 8 tackles, 6 solo tackles. Drew Tranquill was all over the place, 2 QB hits, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 4 solo tackles, 5 total. And then George Karlaftis was also a game wrecker. He ended up having another sack for KC. And then for the Chargers, oh man, Deion Henley, he had 8 tackles and he had a sack and a tackle for loss. And Deshaun Hand also had a sack. But so really what it came down to, like I said, as good as the Chargers defense was, they had to get the stop late in the game and they had to hold up for the half. But boy, Justin Herbert just looked like a goat beating another goat. I don't know how else to say it better than that. But so now let's get on to the whole division for the AFC West with my projections. Again, we're going to do this in alphabetical order, starting with the Denver Broncos. That's right, I am a Denver Bronco fan. And I think that they're going to be really good, just like they were last year. I think the defense is going to be even better than they were last year. And how can they not with some of the people that they brought in? The offense as well, they brought in a few familiar names, and I think that's going to help them out heavily. Same whole coaching staff as it's been for the past 2 years. And tomorrow they're actually playing against Tennessee at home, and they are 8.5 point favorites, underdogs. And Bo Nix back for year 2 in this Sean Payton and Joe Lombardi offense. They got J.K. Dobbins, fresh from the Chargers, who went for over 1,000 total scrimmage yards. He ran for 905, I believe it was. He had 9 touchdowns, and he actually missed 2 games. So, you look at that and you think, hey, there's no reason Dobbins can't go for that, maybe even more this year, as long as he stays healthy. They got the rookie running back, R.J. Harvey. Then they have 2 other guys who can also be maybe possibly rotated in at times in Tyler Bidet and Jaleel McLaughlin. And Cortland Sutton, obviously he got paid a huge contract in the offseason. Last year was his best season thus far as a professional. And I think that they're going to just build on that even more with that chemistry that he has going with Bo Nix. Marvin Mims Jr., who is not only going to play receiver, but he's also going to be the kick returner and the punt returner for the Denver Broncos. I think he's going to have a really big year. And another one to look at, I mean, they have a couple of guys. And not just me being biased because it's my favorite team, but they also have Troy Franklin, who, if you don't know, I've mentioned before, he did play at Oregon and was the preferred number 1 receiver for Bo Nix in Oregon. So he did a lot of work in the offseason, and it's looking like he also could have a pretty big year. Don't really know what that'll look like. If I had to guess, I would say that Marvin Mims statistically would be better than Troy Franklin. But just that chemistry that he's already played with Bo for so many years, that could really come into handy, especially later in the year and in the postseason. Pat Bryant is another one. Sean Payton was drawing comparisons from Pat Bryant to his old wide receiver that he had when he was in New Orleans, and that being Michael Thomas. He's a big-bodied receiver that could potentially wind up working his way into one of the top 3 receivers for Denver this year. They also got Evan Ingram. Talked about this before. Evan Ingram actually led the entire league in total receptions just 2 years ago when he was with Jacksonville. So that is a huge signing. Denver has not had top 10 or even middle of the pack tight end, really, for that matter, in quite some time. Julius Thomas was the last one that they had that was very good. That was about a decade ago when they had Peyton Manning. And they also have Michael Burton as their fullback, another really good fullback. And again, you don't really hear much about fullbacks nowadays. That's kind of a thing of the past. But Michael Burton is another one of those versatile guys. Their offensive line was pretty much, in my opinion, they were the best in the league. But also, if you look at ESPN.com and they show you the the pass block win rate and the run block win rate, Denver is number one in terms of that stuff. And Garrett Bowles has been with this team a long time. He is one of the I'd say top 5 left tackles in the game right now. Ben Powers, who came over just a few years ago from the Baltimore Ravens, is a very good and very underrated run blocker. Luke Wattenberg, this is only going to be his second year in the league, I believe, and he is pretty dang good, man. He is very strong, very underrated. Quinn Miners is also an elite guard that people do not really talk about as much as they should. Mike McGlinchey on the other side, I think he is probably, in my opinion, the weakest part of the O-line, but he played very good last year. He came over just a few years ago from the San Francisco 49ers, played with them in not one, but I believe 2 Super Bowls. And then when you look at the defense, the defense kind of speaks for itself. Again, last year, 63 sacks, led the league by 9 sacks. They paid Zach Allen a huge contract. He came over with Vance Joseph from Arizona. DJ Jones, who was another guy that we ended up getting from San Fran a few years ago. John Franklin Myers. I don't think he's elite, but I think he is very good with what he does, and he's a very good option as a rotational piece on that defensive line. Jonathan Cooper, very underrated, had about 8.5 sacks, I believe, last season. Alex Singleton, another underrated guy, middle linebacker, and he had over 100. Did he? I think he had over 100 tackles last year before he even got hurt. He was a top 5 guy in tackles. I think at one point he was like second best. People don't talk about him enough. He actually came over from Philly a few years ago. Dre Greenlaw, who is actually going to be out. He will not be playing tomorrow. From what I looked up, my research, I think that he will probably wind up missing the first 2 to 3 games, potentially even more than that. So we're going to have to wait just a little bit, Bronco Country. But once he comes back, man, he's one of the better inside linebackers in all football. Nick Benito coming off the other side. We've seen last year, he was actually one of the top defensive players in the league. And at one point, I think he may have even been leading the league in sacks at one point last year. So, great that we got to pay him too. And then the defensive backs, like I just talked about, Talanoa Hufanga came over from San Fran. Brandon Jones, very underrated. He came over from Miami 2 years ago, had over 100 tackles last year. Riley Moss, a lot of people don't know about him, but they'll find out soon how good he is. PS2 was the Defensive Player of the Year last year, and pretty much, I don't think that there's a discussion. He's the number 1 corner in all of football. And then Jaquan McMillan as the nickel, who's probably top 5 nickelbacks in the league. And then Jahdae Barron, who we drafted out of Texas. So, again, there's a lot to love with this team. Now, I do have Denver, just like some of these top analysts are saying, I do have Denver winning the division, not by much, but I have them going 11-6 and going 3-3 in the division. I hope that they do better than that in the division, but it's a very tough division, the AFC West, top to bottom. Even the Raiders are going to be tough this year. Kansas City Chiefs, like we already discussed with the game, they lost 26-21 the other day. Now they have Andy Reid, who is known as the best head coach in all football. I guess at this point, maybe we should also be putting Nick Sirianni up there. Matt Nagy is back. Steve Spagnuolo is back. The defense looked pretty decent at times the other night. And like we already discussed, Xavier Worthy, he got hurt the first play of the game. And it was a shoulder injury. Not really sure how long he's going to be out. I don't even know if they already said, to be honest with you, because it's only been a day. Rashee Rice, again, he's suspended the first 6 games of the season. They do have Hollywood Brown, who came up huge. They got Juju Smith-Schuster, Travis Kelce. Josh Simmons looked pretty good, that rookie left tackle for them. They also have Trey Smith on the other side as the right guard, Creed Humphrey, Jawan Taylor. Then when you look at the defense, again, the guys we already know of, Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, looked really good. They got Mike Dana back just recently, I believe. Drew Tranquil had a really good game. Nick Bolton, Leo Chenal, Trent McDuffie, Brian Cook, Christian Fulton. So, I mean, they have a very good defense. They got Jerry Tillery, too, that can rotate in on that line. Charles Aminu, he had a decent game as well as a rotational piece. And I think that the Chiefs are going to go 10-7. I'm not saying they're not making the playoffs. Of course they're going to make the playoffs. They got Patrick Mahomes. They got Patrick Mahomes. I have them going 4-2 in the division, but I have them losing just one more game than Denver. And again, it's tough. That's why it's so tough to start the season off with a loss to the Chargers. Albeit that they were playing in another country in Sao Paulo, Brazil. But I mean, it was even playing ground. It wasn't home. It wasn't a home game for either team. So the fact that they lost to the Chargers and now they have to play Philly. Hey, you won't hear this too often from me, but let's go Philly. Let's go Philly. Because if the Chiefs start out 0-2, man, I mean, they're going to have an easy game after that. They wind up playing the Giants in New Jersey after that. But then they got to play Baltimore. So, I mean, they have a challenging schedule this year. They got Baltimore, they got Detroit, they got Washington, Buffalo. They still got to play Denver twice. They got to play the Chargers again. Dallas, again, hey, look at how Dallas looked. They actually looked a little bit better than what we thought. And obviously they got to play the Raiders both times. I don't really think that'll be a struggle, but who knows. And then Houston, too. They got to play them. And they had a very good defense last year. So, yeah. So to get on to the last team here, the Las Vegas Raiders are actually 2.5 underdogs tomorrow. They're playing at New England. And they have a brand new OC, and they have a brand new head coach. Pete Carroll, great head coach. He's been in numerous Super Bowls in his 20-plus years, I believe it's been now in the league. Obviously, he won one with New England years ago, and then he won one with Seattle, brought Seattle twice to the Super Bowl. And Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, if you don't really know, he actually was with Ohio State last season. He was their OC. And we all seen Ohio State won the national championship. And prior to that, he was the head coach for, it was a team in California. I think it was UCLA, I believe he was the coach of. And prior to that, he's been a college coach longer than anything. But he also was the Philadelphia Eagles head coach at one point. I don't love him, but he is a very good coach, though. You can't say anything other than that about him. And really, that's what matters. So hopefully, for the Raiders and for their, Raider Nation, they'll have a really good season. They just got Kenny Pickett recently in a trade with Cleveland. That is going to be their backup quarterback with Aiden O'Connell getting hurt. Geno is their starter, came over with Pete Carroll from Seattle. Obviously, they have pretty much almost, the best running back college football's ever seen in Ashton Genty, in my opinion. I mean, I love the Boise State Broncos, and they did really good the other night. But anyhow, Jacoby Myers with that whole situation, don't really know how that's going to work out, but maybe that now that Amari Cooper ended up retiring, maybe Jacoby is going to be okay staying in Vegas and just working it out on the field. They also have Trey Tucker as a receiver. He's a decent receiver, Can't really expect too much from him. I don't know. We'll see. And then they got Dante Thornton Jr. and Jack Beck, who are both rookie receivers that were drafted in the fifth and seventh round, fourth and sixth. I don't know. But they both look like they actually could be very good for the Raiders in the long run. And supposedly Thornton is going to have a very good season this year. That's what I'm hearing. Brock Bowers, I mean, we've seen last year he had the most production of any tight end in football. I don't know that it's going to be the same thing this year because they have more targets for Geno than they did last year when Aiden O'Connell and I forget who else they had. Gardner Minshew, I believe. So, yeah, that was pretty much all they had last year was Brock Bowers. I mean, Jacoby Myers was there. He did really good, but, you know, anyhow. So when you get to the defense, Max Crosby coming off of one side, and then Malcolm Kuntz off the other. Adam Butler in the middle. Leaky Fatu is going to be a rotational piece. I want to say he's a rookie. He's a younger guy, though. They got Jermaine Pratt over from the Bengals, who had about 150 tackles last season, which was huge. That's why I didn't understand why Cincinnati let him go. But at least they worked things out with the guys that they had. Landon Roberts came over from, I want to say, Seattle. Devin White, who still has some juice left in the tank. They got Jeremy Chin, who came over from Washington in the offseason. Eric Stokes at corner. Then they have Jamal Adams listed as a backup linebacker and a backup corner, rather. That's weird. I would have had him as a backup safety. Jamal Adams, hey, I'm a big believer in Jamal Adams, you know. He looked like his career was starting to unwind for a few seasons there. He didn't really see a lot of playing time last year for the Titans. If you even knew that he was with the Titans, I know it may be shocking. Wasn't really a lot to talk about last year in Tennessee. But, so, I mean, they have a formidable team. I think that they're going to compete all season long. And I do like Ashton Genty. I just don't know how that O-line is and how they're going to be able to hold up all year long. For all those reasons, I have the Raiders, and I feel like I'm being very generous here. I have them going 9-8, 3-3 in the division. But it wouldn't shock me if the Raiders only won 7 or 8 games. But with all due respect for Pete Carroll, that's one of the reasons why I felt, maybe 9-8. But we'll see. Because there's been some coaches there over the years that have tried to turn that ship around and to no avail. And then the Chargers is the last team here, actually. They won 26-21, start the season out 1-0. Bravo. They brought their whole coaching staff back. We just talked about how great Justin Herbert is. And also what they did in the offseason with Trey Lance, that looks like they're going to turn him into something. And maybe, who knows? Maybe he gets another shot as a starting quarterback, not there in LA, but somewhere else. Omarion Hampton, like I said, he had a decent game. Wasn't great. He could have did a little bit better. He certainly could have helped them out before the half and stayed in bounds to run the clock out. But you're a rookie, you learn from this, Najee Harris is their backup. He didn't really do a whole lot. Lab McConkey, we talked about how great he looked. Trey Harris, the rookie, he only had one catch, but I believe it went for a first down. I think he's going to be good in the future. Quentin Johnston, better than expected. Keenan Allen, again, that veteran receiver that already had chemistry with Herbert. He already played with him for a few years before he left. Nice to see him not only, coming back to LA, but having a really good game, a meaningful game in the opener for them, and getting a touchdown. Tight ends, Tyler Conklin, Will Disley, about middle tier tight ends, I believe. Joe Alt, one of the better tackles in the game. Trey Pipkins, he's a decent tackle. Mekhi Becton, they have him slotted in as the right guard. Bradley Bozeman is actually a very, very good, I feel like an underrated center who played with Carolina at some point in the past. Zion Johnson, a decent guard. Deshaun Hand, they got at left end, defensive end. Tayer Tart, at nose tackle, and we seen he didn't. We seen what he did. I don't think he's gonna get suspended or fined or anything like that, because he actually hit Travis Kelce in the face. But what he did was, they said it was okay. It wasn't that big of a deal because it wasn't closed fist. It was open hand. So I guess that makes a difference in the force. But yeah, Tyler Tart, that was pretty good. That was pretty funny. Tuli to Pelotu. I'm sorry if I didn't say that correctly. He's a very decent linebacker. Dayon Henley, Denzel Perryman. They still got Khalil Mack. Obviously, they still got Derwin James, regarded as one of the better safeties in the league. Dante Jackson had a really decent game for them, too, their corner. Bud Dupree and Deshaun Phillips as rotational pieces for the linebackers there. Elijah Molden, Benjamin St. Juste. I mean, they have, their defense was really good last year. And if you've seen the stats during the game, in terms of red zone defense, they were number one in 3 different categories last year, which honestly, I didn't even realize that. I knew how good Philly's defense was last year. Obviously, I knew how good the Denver defense was last year. The Chargers, I knew they were decent, but for them to be first in red zone defense in 3 separate categories, that is phenomenal, to be honest with you. Now, I did have the Chargers. I'm not going to lie. I had them losing to KC. I wanted them to win. Obviously, I would rather see the Chargers win than KC any given week. But I had them originally projected at 9-8. As much as it pains me to say this, like I said, I'd rather see them win than the Chiefs, but I don't want anybody to do good in that division except for Denver. I'm going to say the Chargers wind up going 10-7 now. I thought the injuries were going to bother them a whole lot more than it did. That's not what came to fruition. So, maybe they will end up winning more games than I think and go 10-7. So now let's get to the under-over projections. And I'm going to do these in order the way that they are from the sheet that I have here. Kansas City Chiefs, they have them at 11.5 games this year that they're going to win, and I have that with the under. Obviously, as I said, I think they're going to go 10-7. San Francisco 49ers, their under-over is 10.5. I think that's way too high. I got them with the under. Los Angeles Rams, 9.5. I have them with the over. Los Angeles Chargers with 9.5. I have them with the over. Denver Broncos with 9.5. That's disrespectful. I have them with the over. Arizona Cardinals, I also feel this is disrespectful. 8.5. 8.5. They got the over. Let's go. Seattle, 8.5 there. I have them with the under. The Raiders. The Raiders, the under over is 6.5. I'm going to take the over there. And then lastly, that was lastly. So, okay. So, now let's go ahead and get on to my bets of the week. Now, I just wanted to let it be known, again, when it comes to betting, if you are a gambler, the biggest rule that you should be going by is never, wager more than what you can afford to lose. Because if you don't, and you bet more, you could wind up finding yourself in a pretty deep hole pretty quickly. And possibly even living on the street, or potentially living in a van down by the river. Shout out to Chris Farley. So, yeah, my bets of the week are going to be Carolina plus 3.5, which gives you minus 105 odds. Or the money line is plus 164, but I'd rather get the points. They are actually playing at Jacksonville. Pittsburgh, I have Pittsburgh minus 3 on the road at New York. I like Aaron to get his revenge right off the bat here. It is plus 100 odds. Then I have Miami Dolphins on the road as well. I have them with the money line minus 108. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I have them minus 1.5. And where's my schedule? That game I forget. Are they home? No. Tampa is on the road at Atlanta. Minus 1.5 gets you minus 110 odds. Then I have Chicago on Monday night at home against J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings. And the money line is minus 102. So again, I'm not telling anybody else that they should bet. But for me, if I were to bet this, $5 gets you 137.16. Or you could double that to $10 and that gets you 274.32. I like my chances. But again, just remember, guys, you got to be safe, man. You got to, when you bet, if you're going to do it, just remember, just a few dollars is all you got to do. Just like when you go to the casino, the house always wins, right? It's hard to win money. Unless you do it for a living, then kudos to you. I guess it's not all that hard. So, lastly, before I let you go, my straight up pick'em games for week 1. I just talked about a couple of them here, but my straight up pick'em games for week 1 is the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Carolina Panthers, the Detroit Lions on the road at Green Bay, and the Rams at home against the Houston Texans. Baltimore at Buffalo on Sunday Night Football. I like them to get the revenge from last year in the playoffs. And like I just mentioned, Monday Night Football, I have Chicago beating Minnesota. So we will get back to that later in the week. I might be back Monday, maybe Tuesday. We'll see how things go. Probably Tuesday would make more sense. That way I can rub it in people's faces that I went undefeated with my picks. But yeah, so I hope everybody enjoys their Sunday tomorrow. It's going to be a great Sunday, especially if you're a Denver Broncos fan. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And yeah. So I just want to remind everybody to please, like, follow, subscribe, comment, share, do all that, And I'm going to have all my socials and my website in the description of the episode. And remember, you can always find me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. I'm also on IG and Facebook and all that stuff. So, yeah. That's going to be everything for tonight, guys. And let's just have a great day of football tomorrow, And then same thing Monday night. And again, I'll be back on the other side. Hopefully at some point on Tuesday. And that's it. Over and out.